Hey guys, welcome back to another video with Jaeger, a 3-year-old Devil's Garden Wild Mustang. Jaeger has been a star student among my Mustangs. Although he was labeled as a biter by the corrals, he has been an absolute sweetheart of a horse. He's extremely friendly and comfortable with me, or really anyone who visits. From the moment that you step into his pen, you are officially his, and his alone. He's a very possessive horse and refuses to share human attention with other horses. I'm glad he is so comfortable and friendly, but I'm now going to start developing some personal space boundaries with him so he isn't crowding me in his search for scratches. After teaching the hindquarters how to yield, I now like to teach the backup and forequarter yields, as they are especially helpful in teaching a horse to move out of your space. I'll also be teaching him how to lunge and working on desensitization. I didn't get teaching the backup on camera, but this is me teaching his forequarters to yield. This can be a little tricky to teach, but you can see me putting pressure right about eye level and trying to stay with him. Jaeger outmaneuvers me here, but I try to go right back at it so he doesn't get that feeling of a release, until he does the right thing, which he did right here. We'll work on getting that a little bit more graceful. You may have noticed that once he did the right thing, I immediately went to rubbing him with my stick. Again, my stick is neutral and I'm trying to use it to both sensitize and desensitize. I of course did a lot more repetitions and then moved to teach the other side. This exercise can require a lot of persistence on your end when training, and also sometimes requires a lot of mini adjustments in your body position so that the horse can understand what you're asking. I start and end each request to yield the forequarters with some desensitizing with that stick. This can be confusing for the horse to learn at first, and they often respond by trying to evade the pressure by raising their head. I'll just raise my hands and stay with them, and then rub him to a stop when he does the right thing. Being able to move a horse's forequarters is an important skill for any horse to know, but I think it's especially important for Jaeger because he does want to be in my space so much. When I'm doing this exercise, I'm looking for the front leg closest to me to cross over the other side. It's not going to be perfect at first, but it will work itself out in the future. Today I'm going to start working with Jaeger on lunging. I've never lunged him before. Just getting him to move out while not being led is going to be very new to him. I really wanted to slowly start to get control of him, and that's why I taught him to lead. I taught him to yield his forequarters, hindquarters, and all of that. You want to say hi, sir? We're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I had to do was send Jaeger out. I did this by pointing, then adding a cluck, and then adding my whip here. If he gave even a slight shift forward, I released and gave him a little reward. I try my best to break this down into tiny little steps so that he understands what I'm asking. Once he moved forward, I released my pressure, not really caring what gait he moved at. If he stops, I just send him out again. This got him just a little bit excited. He flipped around and I lost the grip on my rope, so he got to experience the long line trailing behind him. However, he's a pretty good-minded horse and didn't lose his brains about this. I was able to ask him to yield his hindquarters to regain his attention, and that's how I was able to catch him again. If I ever drop a lead rope, it's actually really helpful to have a horse who knows how to yield its hindquarters for this very reason. Once he got the idea on moving forward on the lunge line, we went on to changing directions. This first direction change is pretty ugly, but it is broken down. He changes gait, which isn't ideal. I step out in front of the drive line and walk backwards to draw him in. I switch hands and then point to redirect him, and I also correct my position with that drive line, as I had drifted from when I first stepped out. He had a few yahoozies, as I like to say, when he started out. He did a couple laps around the round pen when I lost that rope, but again, he gathered himself pretty quickly. Like I said, he's a pretty good-minded horse, and we went right back to work after that. I tried to remember to not get caught up in chasing perfection. A lot of these imperfections that we make on this first day will really smooth themselves out on their own with more practice, and as we progress with different exercises. I've continued to move on with practicing desensitizing with that stick and string, as well as other ropes. I usually do this between every exercise and always at the end when I'm about to finish a session. I always want to make sure that he's relaxed and calm before I walk away. Alright, so that session went really well. I was about to leave and then he started following me, so I figured I should just give him some scratches, end with something that he really likes and make sure that he continues to enjoy hanging out with me. I repeated everything that I had done in the first session in my second session with Jaeger that day. This is his second session of this day, but also his third day of training. After doing a few more direction changes, we moved on to something new, desensitizing his legs. I started by working with his top line, which is what I had been already doing, and then I moved down to his lower back legs. This is probably the most concerned that I've seen Jaeger. I'm trying to maintain a slow, steady rhythm and keep my energy low as I do this. Once he had quieted a bit, I went ahead and stopped. I gave him some love and reassurance between each set. We would continue to practice this in the days to come, and he would just get better and better. As part of this video, I am cutting out a lot, and I really want you to know that this was probably one of the harder things for him to learn. I think a couple of the key things that helped him to understand were, one, keeping a low energy and being consistent while doing this and not removing it until he had stood still. I don't want to remove the stick and string while he's kicking at it because he'll learn that to remove it, you just have to kick. But just as important was maintaining that low energy and not pushing him over the top here. I moved on to doing this with Jaeger's front legs. And this he had a little bit more of a problem with. Jaeger was definitely very touchy with his legs, and his front legs in particular were very challenging. After observing his reaction to this, I decided that it would be better to take a step back and really not even touch his legs, but just get him used to the swinging of my rope back and forth. This was a much better starting point for where he was at. It's still pushing him a little bit out of his comfort zone, as you can see by his pawing, but it's not pushing him as far as it was when it was touching his legs. This is a good place to start. Because I made the adjustment to the easier starting point, he was able to have more success sooner. Again, I'm cutting out a whole lot so you didn't see the full struggle, but just trust me when I say he was really struggling with this. Moving on now to his 5th day of training. Okay, not gonna lie, I had to check the timestamps for this footage to make sure it truly came after that last session. And yes, this is exactly where it's supposed to be. Vermont weather is confirmed crazy, and now I'm back in a jacket and leggings. This is, of course, typical Vermont weather. Anyway, Jaeger is trying on a leather halter that I got in a recent 4-H sale. He's looking more and more domesticated as time goes on, and I can't wait till he cleans up. Here he's feeling the weight of his new halter. It'll likely take him a little time to adjust. I switched back over to my rope halter and then went to lunging. He's now lunging in all 3 gaits and has gotten better at direction changes. Not only that, this horse has a powerful motor. He seems like a pretty athletic guy. Second time lunging. I continue to work on desensitizing his legs, starting with the back and then the front. He is still struggling with this. A few sessions later, he was doing much better. While he still didn't like it, he really didn't know what to do with himself, he was tolerating it. One of the things he tried doing was grabbing his lead rope while I was desensitizing him. I just ignored this and eventually it went away. I think this was just him responding to the stress of this activity. This was new for him and probably the most challenging thing that he's had so far. I was happy to see him gaining a little bit more confidence in this area. It had taken a bit of time to get here compared to everything else he's done so far. Anyway, that's all for this video, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a nice rest of your day.